Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cosmere Connections, where a bunch of book-loving nerds try and find the secrets of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere as we reread the entirety of its story from Book 1 to Book 16 billion. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's make some Cosmere Connections.
We've got John.
I never thought of something to say. Shit!
Kay's here, too.
There's still stories to tell.
Oh, that's neat.
And I'm ReaderWarrior, and today we are going to be covering the entirety of Mistborn, Well of Ascension, Part 6, Words and Steel, chapters 56 through 59.
We're so close to the end.
We basically are here.
Well, there's still the epilogue.
One little epilogue, and that's where we're going to talk about, the epilogue, and then our entire story, thoughts, and opinions. And we're probably going to do a small little ranking system, but it's basically just comparing to the Final Empire, so I doubt it'll get that much attention or go on that long.
And then we're going to completely engrave this entire podcast in steel.
Get the transcript.
Because anything not set in metal cannot be trusted.
That's going to be mighty expensive. May I recommend Reynolds Wrap aluminum foil?
Sure. I don't see why not.
I think a year ago, me and somebody on the Coppermind were trying to figure out, wait, what if you actually wanted to put all of the Mistborn books into sheets of metal? How big of a book would that be?
That would largely depend on the gauge of the metal.
So
well, how small font could you go?
That's true.
Well,
that's definitely a factor.
It depends. Are you using
engraver or chisel?
Are you engraving, or are you writing it yourself?
I don't think we were really necessarily thinking that much. What was that, John?
It wouldn't take much metal at all, because technically the storage element in an SD card is metal. So you could fit the entire Cosmere in your little pinky fingernail size.
But see, my contrast to that is that metal mines can be changed. So therefore, would you not think that a
digital
things
storage
on an additional storage might also be able to be changed?
No, and here's why. Metal mines work using investiture, which is what basically the shards are made out of. And electricity and investiture and magnetism are, well, electricity and magnetism are the same thing, but investiture is not. So, ergo, no. Anything stored on an SD card would be safe. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I remember
you got
that
another
part
question you can ask Brandon.
Of the prophecy. And I write these words in steel because anything on an SD card can be corrupted.
Well, there goes logic.
Am I misremembering that? I don't know.
Nope, that sounds exactly what was written there when I took a carving. But I guess if we've got nothing really to talk about, let's just get right in. I imagine we're going to have a lot to talk about. So, John, you have 56, don't you?
I do, and it's a relatively short one, although not as short as 59. It is pretty straightforward. So, we start off our chapter. If Rashik fails to lead Elendi astray, then I have instructed the lad to kill Elendi. The gasp! But we already knew that. So, Elend is walking through the mist, and he's kind of wondering how Vin can stand it, because he's totally creeping himself out. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but yeah, it's an experience.
It's awesome.
I love
but
it.
He then wonders how tin can help you see through the mists if the mists are just going to block your sight, which is something that we've also discussed here on the podcast. Spook shows up, tells him that there's a Mithray following him, and that kind of creeps Elend out a little bit more, and he thinks it's weird. But he tells Elend to wait here for a minute because he's found a camp ahead. and he's going to go make introductions, basically, and see who it is, because it would be kind of weird to have the king just show up at a random camp. So he does, and Elend waits a little bit more, and he thinks about the mists again, and how they're seemingly harmless, and how they could be the deepness, and sort of pontificating on that. And then he's kind of doing that thing that kids do when they lay in the grass and they go, "Oh, look, that cloud looks like a sheep, and that mist looks like a person. Wait a minute, it's like 3 feet away from me." So he sees the mist spirit, and it tries to communicate with him, sort of. Elend isn't really sure. It's pointing to the north, and Elend's like, "What do you want? Just tell me." And then Spook shows back up again, and kind of Elend loses track of it, and it sort of dissipates. But then Spook takes Elend to the camp, and it turns out to be made up of a bunch of. That's a weird sentence. Terracemen that are traveling to Luthadel, essentially looking for asylum. And Elend talks to them for a little while and finds out that their city, that I forgot the name of, and I didn't write it down. Bad me. Was basically destroyed by Inquisitors, and he's like, "Well, I just came this way. How come I didn't see you?" And they're like, "Oh, we didn't follow the canal road. We came over land." And he's like, "Oh, well, I guess that makes sense."
That's just point between A and B is a straight line.
Yeah, but if you don't have a compass or a guide and you have to go a long way, it's easy to veer, which is why you follow the canal, even if it's not necessarily the straightest way.
Tathingdwin.
Thank you. I knew somebody would help me out.
I feel like they
SK.
mentioned that because they were trying to stay hidden.
There's also that factor too. It would be safer for them, given the number of bandits and kind of groups of rogue armies and things.
Later in my chapter, when Elend and Spook arrive at Luthadel, it says they took kind of a hint from those group of terracemen and stayed off the canals for that reason.
Anyway, they ask Elend, who hasn't revealed who he is yet, if they think King Elend will take them in Luthadel, because they've heard that he's kindly and, all of those things. They go there also looking for the last living keeper that they know of, or the last living member of the Synod that is a keeper, who is Tindwyl. Rip.
Sad.
And they tell him that, she may be the highest ranked living keeper. Spook and Elend debate a little bit about the state of the world, and then Elend shares his tea with Spook, saying he doesn't like hard root tea after all, or whatever. And Spook feels better, and he kind of smiles and does his Spook thing. And that's kind of where the chapter ends. Like, that's it. Feels very
Before I get into detail on my notes, I do want to bring up that what attacked them were Inquisitors. And we have not seen them at all this book. We've had one reference that one was around Critic Shaw, which we see now.
That's not true. We saw Marsh.
That's true. It's the same one. We saw Marsh
at the very beginning.
Very beginning.
But the Society of Inquisitors, as a construct, what are they up to? This is our first hint of that, really.
Also, we saw Marsh just last week. Because he was there trying to stop Sazed. Or wait, no, that's later.
No, that's today.
That's this week.
My
but
bad.
we do see him. We do see him.
They show up.
You're right.
He's there.
So I'm kind of confused. Like, is there anything, without spoiling it, that we can say? What were the Inquisitors trying to do? Like, they were just attacking these people, or
they were attacking the They were clearly attacking the Feruchemists. Which at this point we don't know why. They were clearly attacking the Feruchemists for some reason. At this point, we can
so
maybe
they
guess
were attacking terrorists.
They were attacking terrorists. They were attacking the Feruchemists. It shows specifically that they were attacking the Synod, who are, as we know, the only body of Feruchemists that we know of at this point.
Maybe they're following the Lord Ruler's last command, and they're just wiping out all of the terracemen.
Yeah, maybe they're doing that because that was one of their task was to try to wipe out all of the terrorists, all of the Feruchemists. So they're probably out there and doing that.
I guess that's like one of the only people who could really compete with them in terms of power at this point.
And John, you said it like, oh, Tindwell might be the last keeper. Sazed's the last keeper. There's been basically a genocide.
Yes, but Tindwell was the last member of the Synod.
Yeah.
Yes, because
also
Sazed is not a member of the Synod at this point because he has been kicked out because he is rebel.
Yep. Rebel with a cause.
Too many causes.
So going back to the first part, I wonder if there's ever been a violent mistwraith, and this would kind of be a cool story because we hear about the mistwraiths are demons and they steal your faces, and yeah, that can come from just the fact like they eat people. But I wonder if long ago there was like a violent one.
No, it comes from the Khandra.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Khandra also have rules like they are not allowed to harm or
not always.
kill a
but
person.
not always. Not when they were first created. Not for the first couple hundred years. For the first 300 years or so, the Khandra tried to incorporate themselves into society and they tried to hide. So that would cause them to go and kill people and steal their faces and try to hide. That's where this story of the Mistwraith comes from. And it has been twisted over time, over the 700 years. It's been passed on through oral lore, causing.
I just really like the
concept
of that story.
Yeah, but causing them to forget that it was the Khandra, and equating them to the Mistwraith because they're they're similar because they're related.
But a Mistwraith is more unintelligent. It's just kind of eating bones here and there, replicating them a little bit unintelligibly.
It's basically a giant slime mold.
It's like it's a force of nature, more like a wild animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's more like a prey animal.
I mean, I get it though.
It's
I'd still be creeped out by that.
Rogue.
I'd be creeped out by that. Stories or no stories, you're out in the mist and you see something with 6 arms and legs, just kind of forming at you.
But that's also the thing, is that most of them, the only people who see Mistwraiths are Tan Eyes and Mistborn.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Generally speaking, no one else can see the Mistwraith because of all of the mist in the way. Because the Mistwraiths never get close enough to actually be seen.
Elend is so out of his element in this chapter. He's just out in the mists. He's like, why couldn't I just be able to burn tin?
He is. He's very much wishing that he was more useful in this chapter. A little bit. Wishing that he had an allomantic power.
He wishes he was Mistborn for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know if this counts as a spoiler or not, but do you guys know who the terrorist leader has been sort of retconned into being?
No.
Hoyd.
Really? Was that a word,
Brandon? When? No.
People have asked him, hey, was Hoyd in the Well of Ascension? He's like, yeah, he's the terrorist leader. Which kind of I don't see here at all, but...
I don't see that at all, and I don't like it.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So it's just a word of Brandon. Somebody asked that question, and that's what he answered it.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's so sloppy.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. But since he doesn't technically appear in this book, he kind of just said, this guy's him.
But if it's true, it would be a huge clue, I guess. I mean, you talk about world bringers.
So No, it's not that he's the leader of the terrorists. He's the leader of the terrorist refugees.
Yeah, the guy who's labeled terrorist leader, the one who's talking with Ellen this entire
Yeah.
section.
Wait, what? Oh, so it's this guy that Ellen's actually talking to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that changes everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should have been clear.
I don't know. He doesn't seem super hoity.
It's
Yeah.
yucky. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't agree. Okay, then. Anything else
I'm
for chapter 56 then?
glad you brought it up, actually, though. That way, Brandon knows that people don't like that explanation.
Yes, because our little podcast is going to come to Brandon's attention. Well, since these four don't like it, I guess we'll just say it was not the case after all. That is a terrible Brandon Sanderson impression. Like,
Hey,
no,
four
does not count.
voices whispering quietly in the corner is still louder than 0 voices.
I mean, you are not wrong. Yup. That's a Horton Hears a Who reference.
That's good. I didn't get that. I do now, though.
Well, let's move on 57 then.
Okay. So 57 was my chapter. I'm going to read the epigraph in a minute. It is a distant hope. Elend has survived assassins, wars, and catastrophes, and yet I hope that in the frozen mountains of Terrace he may finally be exposed. I hope for a miracle. I'd like to point out that the symbol for this chapter is gold, which I think is cool, and I also have it tattooed on me. It's the only reason
Nice.
I recognize it. So this starts out with the Sazed POV, and it jumps around a lot in this chapter, so bear with me here. But it's been a week
A
since the
lot.
Battle of Thidel. Yeah, it's literally like every other paragraph is somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Sazed is talking with Set, Penrod, and General. Set wants to send scouts out to Fadric City to reclaim it from that obligator, but Penrod and General believe he needs to wait for Elend's approval. Although it's revealed that General secretly is hoping to send troops to go recover his city or two. And Penrod this whole time is like pretending he's the little mediator of this group while trying to act like he's above everything. And Sazed's just
really
kind of
he
sitting
just-
there.
When really, Penrod just wants everyone to just stay in Luthadel to control the city that he's the king of.
Oh, I didn't even think of that angle.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's the entire reason that he's like trying to play mediator, and he's like, no, we shouldn't go anywhere yet. We shouldn't do anything yet because he wants everyone to stay there to help control his own city.
Yeah. We haven't forgiven Penrod for how he's acted this entire book or selling out to Straff yet.
I love the idea that, like, hey, they all get to be happy, they all get to be kings, but Elend still gets to hold, like, the ultimate power.
They call Vin Empress.
She is the Empress.
I know, but it's so cool to read.
I was kind of struck by how almost jarringly fast the new system is adopted. I know it's been a week, but, like, they're having this meeting, and just, you know, from a perspective of reading it, it's kind of just like, whoa, okay, this, like, they're calling her Empress, and everybody's used to this now, and, like, but I mean, that's how it would be. Like, they'd already be vying and trying to scheme, and like, I'm sure they adapt so quickly.
Yeah, because like if you have to remember that these are all people who, after the Lord Ruler died, they immediately like set seized for power. Like General, like he immediately like became one of Set's generals, or not Set's generals, Straff's generals, and got a lot of power. So like they know how to like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are the tenacious business types, I guess. So Sazed's kind of sitting there numb as he has an overwhelming sense of apathy since Tyndall's passing, which is very uncharacteristic of him. He eventually convinces the three to kind of settle down and submit to Elend's rule, but it seems like they're only going to play along with this while the threat of Vin looms over their little group. It switches to an Elend POV. Spook and Elend, unless you guys have anything to comment on that part of it.
I got Sazed pushing Vin's religiousness. This is the last religion that he kind of believes in. And he's like, we need to believe in Vin, the Empress, and all of that. And two theoretical questions that I'm sure will distract us for a while. Is it possible to build up pewter dragging endurance?
Yes.
I would imagine, especially as you become a pewter savant.
Yeah. Because like we've seen in book 1, we saw the difference between Vin pewter dragging versus Kelsier pewter dragging. Like and Vin has been pewter dragging for months, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But is it
pretty much.
Is it like anything else where as your tolerance builds up you get less out of it? Like, do you have to burn more pewter to get as strong as before? I wouldn't think so. It would work like that.
I don't think it would work like that.
And then my other question is, could Sazed hypothetically store all of his memories of Tindwyl in the Coppermind, forget about her, and just throw away the Coppermind?
Yes, but I don't think he would do that.
Yeah, in which he even comments, like, in the next thing, like, he doesn't want to forget, but I'm wondering, could it be possible for somebody to, like, store away all their bad memories and literally destroy them?
I think it would be very difficult because you would have to be separating those memories from other memories that you have that you would want to keep. So, like, he would have to take away all of his memories of, he would have to store away all of his memories of making his study sessions with Tindwyl. So he would have to forget all of the information that he's learned about the hero and the prophecies.
And he could do it a lot easier if he would just go find cultivation.
I do like that he's like torn between ruining all those memories and preserving them. He doesn't know which would be more painful. I think that's so deep and so tender. So we move on?
Indeed.
Okay, so Spook and Elend have arrived at Luthadel here, and Spook's burying tin so he can look ahead and sees that the Koloss are camped outside, and Straff's army is still outside the city. They're burying bodies, and Luthadel still waves Elend's flag. So it's either the best trap ever, or somehow they won. It switches back to Sazed. Not much, I don't think, to say on their arrival back to the city, so I'm going to keep going.
Oh, and they see that, Elend's flag is waving.
I have that flag. I got it for Secret Sasements. It's blue, and it's got a spear and a scroll on it. And I would show it, except it's at my other place.
We can
very,
pause.
very far away.
Sure, give me an 8-hour plane ride, and I'll hop back on.
So Sazed is looking over the book him and Tindwyl made together while researching the Deepness. He's sad that she's gone, and the book is a perfect representation of their brief relationship. Sazed is in very bad shape here. He's crying on the book and nearly destroying it. Before he dabs it off with his sleeve, which I don't know, just like that visual of him disturbing the ink and is really deep, I feel like.
Yeah.
He starts recounting the many contradictions of their research. The text had one time said that Elend was a good man, and also stated that no man can be trusted. It was stated the hero of ages was tall in stature, and previously states that they were short but tall in bearing. Sazed also notices the text said, I thought myself the holy first witness, which he realizes is what the Church of the Survivor referred to him as. He finds it strange that when they called him that, he didn't recognize it from the text. Before he can finish his thought, though, Vin pops up. So this was like a fairly complicated couple paragraphs of Sazed like misremembering things that he'd read, and it was kind of hard for me to keep track of. But does anybody have anything they wanted to mention?
It was actually originally the hero was tall, but now it reads they're short.
All right, thank you. So where do we go from here? Vin is mad at Sazed for letting her sleep so long, and she's like adamant that the Well of Ascension is in Luthadel. She pretty much wakes up just believing this wholeheartedly. And it's like she's not even like paying attention to the prophecies anymore. She says she feels like the mists are pulling her. And she concludes that the Lord Ruler most likely moved the world around the Well of Ascension instead of moving the Well of Ascension.
Whoa.
Which is this wild theory, but it kind of makes sense if you think about how it said he made all these deserts, and like they have no reason to assume the geography would be the same if he had that kind of power.
Mm-hmm. He was able to make mountains. If he was able to make the ash mounts, why couldn't he have flattened the mountains?
Mm-hmm. Which I love to bring up. The Kredik Shah was like his home. It could have been quite literally where he lived, and he just moved the land that was the piece of land where he lived. But also think about the perversion of what that did to the Terrace people, and how they've been living in their religious. This has been our home since before the Lord Ruler, and it hasn't. This is literally just like a fake city the Lord Ruler made that they turned back into their home.
That's wild to think about. I also like this idea of like this weird like Terrace Pac-Man who's like kind of got stereotypes against other people, and he's just like, I want my little hovel to be the center of the world for all time.
Yeah.
And so literally it becomes that.
So moving on, Sazed hears some voices from outside, and he pulls a tin mine out of his sack of 10 metal mines to hear what's up. Vin must have been burning tin already, because when he hears, "The king has returned," from outside, Vin jumps out the window immediately. Vin reunites with Elend. It's very sweet. The first thing she does is apologize. Elend's kind of like, "For what?" He goes, "I made you emperor."
Accidentally made you emperor. Sorry.
Oh.
Happy anniversary!
Worse things could have happened. Considering he was expecting to come back to a city destroyed by Koloss, or overturned to Straff, or some combination of the two. Vin looks really, really tired, and Ellen's like, "Oh, are you purity dragging again?" And she's like, "No, it's something else." Like, I still hear the pulsing. So she asks him to come with him. Meanwhile, we switch back to Sazed, who sees a scrap of paper reminding him of the weird time the phrase "Elend must not reach the Well of Ascension" was torn off every page. Why would Quan be so worried about Elend taking the power for himself, he asks. Vin, Spook, and Elend and Ham walk through the mists towards Kredik Shah and the pulsations. She says that the mists are guiding her, although Elend says they actually seem to be pulling away, which I love anytime they mention that the mists are like swirling around Allomancy or pulling away from it. I just think that's one of the coolest visuals in the series. And it's probably a hint to like what's going on behind the scenes too. So they follow the same path her and Kelsier took that fateful night they got the Lord Ruler's logbook years ago. They even end up at the strange stone room that they had seen before. Vin burns steel and notices that one of the lines is thicker than the others, and she pulls on it using a derailment enhanced pull, which reveals a secret chamber.
Ooh.
Do you have anything for this section?
Yeah, did the Lord really have a better way of bringing this thing open other than like destroying the floor or a wall?
I don't think it necessarily destroyed the wall to do it. It's like a sliding bookshelf kind of thing, Scooby-Doo style.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just that Vin had to pull on it really hard because it was made for the Lord Ruler, who was one of the original Allomancer, who's like a really strong Allomancer. So, so it's much more difficult for her to do it than it would have been for him.
I feel like any other Mistborn would have been like pulling on it, like, no, that must be like integral to the structure of the building. That's so heavy.
Yeah.
Whatever this is, and just gave up. But
Thank
she
you,
has this
Duralumin.
weird.
Which
She's
was
like in
the
a
point.
trance right now. I don't know. Like she just has like, no, this is it. We have to go here. Sazed can't get over the the holy first witness thing. When the titular mist spirit shows up and says nothing, right? He points at the center of Luthadel, and Sazed is really confused by this. Like he's freaked out, obviously, and he goes to the place of thinking maybe it's Tyndall's ghost at first, which is really, really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he decides that it's probably not. And he eventually ends up deciding that because those pages were ripped out and this mist spirit is following him, he puts two and two together that, maybe this mist spirit is trying to reference the passage, Elend must not be allowed to reach the Well of Ascension, for he must not be allowed to take the power for himself. Because if they ripped out that phrase and they're trying to get my attention, the two could be connected. Mm-hmm. So he ends up following the mist spirit through Luthadel as people are starting to get really sick from the same like mist sickness he was seeing earlier in the book all around him. He would normally probably stop and help these people, but it seems like the mist spirit keeps egging him on. And he notes that it seems to be tugging on his emotions, similar to getting soothed.
And really quickly, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. You seem to be on a roll. Sazed does go back and check his metal mines and their past notes, and they do all say Holy First Witness. So, like, something changed that. I feel like we've gotten to the point in the story where we can say, like, something has been changed.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? It's like he and Tyndall poured over these notes hours and hours and hours, and he remembered seeing Holy First Witness this time after they called him that. So why didn't he recognize it when they called him that the first time? He's like, shouldn't it have been here the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
As Sazed arrives at Critic Shah, I might be skipping a little bit, but basically he encounters Marsh, who has been waiting for him and seems to be in some kind of trance. He vaguely hints at not knowing why he has to kill Sazed, and then pushes him with a really strong Steel Inquisitor push.
Marsh is back?
Marsh is back and he's trying to kill him.
Poor Sazed. He's just like...
one thing after another.
Yeah, he had his awesome moment fighting like 19 Koloss at once, and now everything sucks for him.
The last crew member who's been missing like the entire book, except for briefly in the beginning when he was with Sazed, and he's just completely out of character right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be creepy. I would love to see this scene in a movie where you see it, and it's the reflection of the eyes in the darkness is all you can see, the two circles. And then he slowly steps into frame and, oh, it's just Marsh. And then he like raises his hand or something, you know. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Sazed.
it would be so cool.
He has to say it in the Schwarzenegger. I'm sorry, says it. I don't know I must do this.
Apparently, he's being played by the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes. It's just his destiny. It must be.
You've got to die, Towers.
Die.
Come with me if you want to die.
This is
Get
only
to the
beginning.
Koloss.
The conventicle of Sauron.
Die. Put the metal down. My
Listen,
only
I'm gonna
last
be
note for
blunt.
this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's so much spoilery stuff. I was going to say, I don't have anything that's not as spoilery as a note for this.
Yeah, my only last non-spoiler note is like the Lord Ruler being a end of the world nut and storing all of the stuff there.
Yeah. He's totally a
Mine
prepper, man.
Yes.
A prepper, that's the word.
You don't know what I do for mankind.
I did leave that out. I'm sorry. I had that written down and I completely skipped it. They also see a nearby city is circled on a map, which is important. But Vin doesn't seem to care. She's all about that well.
Okay.
That well life.
Are you ready for the main event?
Do it. Do it now.
58. Do it now. Hi. Hi.
Get to the chopper.
Already.
Get to the chapter.
Get to the chapter.
Get to the Koloss.
I'm gonna wait.
Uh-oh, we just invoked Teacher K.
Oh no. She's gonna start counting down from 5.
Isn't there an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's like a
Kindergarten cop.
cop? Yeah.
Crisscross applesauce spoons in the bowl.
Elend must not reach the Well of Ascension.
Dot dot dot.
That was torn out of my book, weirdly.
Nice.
So Elend and Ben are in the cavern and they see a second cavern and it's got like some like dark smoke in it. And they walk through. And Ben says that like she's like, I see a light up ahead, so there's something up ahead, there's something through this cavern. So they walk through this like dark smoke. We flip back to Sazed. So Marsh is attacking Sazed. And Sazed is like, he's like, I can't, like, I'm no Allomancer. I'm not a fighter. And Marsh is kicking his butt. And Marsh is like, why did you come? Like, why did you come here? He's like, I'm sorry. Marsh, you can tell that Marsh doesn't want to be doing this right now. Doesn't want to have to hurt Sazed.
Then why is he?
Why is he? And he, a bag falls out of Sazed's clothing, and Marsh uses it and pushes it and thinks that it's a coin pouch. But it's not. And pushes it at Sazed and embeds the pieces of metal into Sazed, and Sazed is laying there, like, bleeding out, and he's like, I don't know why I came here, like, I can't do anything, and then there's a voice in his head that, like, whispers to him, and it's like, those weren't coins. They're metal mine. Like, those weren't coins, they were rings. And Sazed remembers that those are the rings that he had stored, that he had been using to store the attributes in before the fight that he hadn't used. And he has weight, speed of body, sight, hearing, touch, scent, strength, speed of mind, wakefulness. Most importantly, though, he's got health.
Healing!
He's got a gold. One of them is gold, which is health. So he taps his health and heals himself. He heals his body. And he stands up and he is ready to fight. And Marsh is
I
like,
can see this whole section. Like, I talked about the Koloss and how I would want to see it in animation style. This is also like I can see Marsh pushing on the pouch, and it kind of does like black silhouettes on like a white background, and you see them fly into his body. You see Sazed crumble to the ground, and he lays there, and then you like cut to like inside his body, and you see that the things in it are his things. You might show them like sparkle and then glow, and then you have Sazed like kind of rise up with a glow to it almost.
yeah. And Marsh is like, you're no warrior. And Sazed's like, neither are you. Because Marsh was never a warrior either. But they're both being put into this position where they have to fight now. Then we flip back to Vin and Elend. A lot of flipping between these two point of views.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, like, it's wild that now we have two examples of characters literally having like voices in their heads. Like, because we saw it with Zane, where clearly there was some sort of outside influence speaking to him, and now Sazed in this circumstance has an actual voice speaking to him, which is kind of cool when he's having like maybe a little bit of a crisis of faith. He gets his, you know, some
Maybe it
kind
was
of magical
Tindawil.
influence to him.
Maybe it was Tindawil speaking to him beyond the grave.
Yeah.
So we flip back and this is Elend's POV. And he's like, I am in over my head. Like, what the hell am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
As he usually is.
As he usually is. And they make it through the dark smoke. And they see another chamber. And it feels like it's man-made, but also not. Which is really weird. Like, there are stalactites and stalagmites that form columns, but the columns are like super evenly spaced out throughout this chamber. But it's clear that no one has used any sort of like tools on this chamber to make those columns.
Is that like because the Lord Ruler like made them when he had the power at the well or something?
No,
Or
this
maybe
is
something
original.
far old.
I think this is something far older. I think this is before whoever made the
Whoa.
well originally, before the Lord Ruler.
So we're to assume this is before even that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And a little obvious to me now that you're saying it out loud.
Yeah. It's okay. So, at the far end of this cavern, they see a glowing pool of something. We're not sure what exactly that substance is, but there's a glowing pool of something.
I think it's the same stuff that's in Shrek's swamp.
And as they're looking around, they see a little ledge back near where they entered the room. They go over and they look, and they see looks like broken shards of like pottery on this ledge and on the ground underneath it. And Elend looks through, and he finds one that's intact. And in the center, it's like a circular disc, and in the center is a piece of metal that, at first, they're like, is this ATM? And then they're like, no, it's not the right color for that. Quite sure what this is. But Elend keeps a hold of it, because they'll probably investigate it later when they're done with all this.
He puts it back down, doesn't he?
No, he puts it, he like, holds on to it. He doesn't put it back down. He holds on to it. He, like, puts it in his pocket or something. I don't know. He holds on to it. He doesn't put it
No,
back
he
down.
puts it back because Vin has
Does
to
not.
walk over and grab
No,
it.
no, she does not.
Yeah, she does.
No, she
I
does
thought
not. No, she does
she
not.
walks over later
She
and
does
walks.
not. She does not.
Okay, you keep going. I'll go check my chapter.
Combat!
She does not. I can guarantee that. She does not. So, and we now flip back to Sazed and Marsh's battle. And now that Sazed has some metal mines, he's kicking ass and taking names. He's doing a lot better now. So he
Fair chemist unchained.
Farrakhan's Unchained. So he uses his weight to push Marsh away from him as Marsh is trying to push on his metal bracers. He taps his weight, the weight, and makes Marsh get shoved away from him. He ends up he taps zinc to help speed up his thought process when Marsh pulls a like candle thing off the wall to use as a weapon, so you can see the trajectory of it. And then he taps speed and goes and he catches it out of the air and taps strength and weight again to then pull Marsh towards him, knocking his weight around. Which is honestly, this is a really cool scene.
Mm-hmm.
He,
Like,
He's
even
like
if we
taking out his
stop and, like,
aggression.
yeah,
like Force Eagles mass times acceleration, that punch, even if he's just doubling his mass, is going to be ridiculously strong.
he tries to tap. He taps strength and tries to swing it at Marsh, but Marsh pushes it away from him. And he taps weight, and then they're in a kind of stuck in the in between where neither of them are being moved. And neither of them are able to get closer to each other because of this. And Sazed asks him, he's like, why? Why are you doing this? And Marsh is like, I don't know. So Sazed again taps steel to try and reach around the back of Marsh to grab the spike out of his back, the linchpin spike. But right as he's reaching to grab it, his steel runs out. His speed runs out. And Marsh whips around, whacks him again. And at this point, Sazed is like, I'm out of metal. Just like, there's not much more I can do. And the light, as Marsh is holding up the candle, the light and the candle goes out. But Sazed still sees another light. And then Marsh gets whacked on the head with a dueling cane. And gets knocked out.
Okay,
So,
can we stop here? Because
yeah.
from then on, it's like, here's the whole Vin and Elend thing.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, yes, Elend does leave the bead there. I've got the page open. Because Vin does walk over to it. Vin approached him, bent over, fingers finding the small nugget of metal that had been in the disc center, and then she goes back to Elend. And in your chapter, there's nothing on Elend putting it down. I'll give you that, but there's nothing about him taking it either. But going into
something, no. So, see, it says a piece of pottery the disc Elend had taken from the shelf in the back of the room and had been holding in his hand.
yeah, earlier he was holding it in his hand. He picked it up. He held it in his hand.
He was holding it in his hand when the spirit stabbed him.
It had broken.
When he'd collapsed, it had broken.
Oh,
when
so he dropped it.
He dropped it when he collapsed. I was right. I would like to say.
Dang it, I thought I outlived her once. These days. One of these days, I'll get it. Okay. I'll bow down to K,
Apparently
the
you'll just have
smartest.
to read more
Third.
carefully.
Shut up. I was too excited. There's so much going on, I'm not going to notice that the small little bead was either held in his hand and get dropped, or he just leaves it there. Because honestly, it works either way.
Like
But
that I was correct.
yes, all about
For the record.
The smartest of all. I wanted to bring up Sazed, Marsh's comment about I've spent all this time killing. His brothers have spent all this time killing Feruchemists in particularly. Like, he knows all of his tricks.
Yeah, but Sazed just had like a 9-hour crash course in pushing in Koloss faces, so like he's got more practice than your average feruchemist when it comes to battle.
That's true.
And like I was lightly alluding to, I feel like he's got some pent up rage over Tyndall's death. He's taking out on Marsh right here. So this is time to really go off.
And I wanted to bring up. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's cool to see what a feruchemist can do all in total. Like you see him he's storing things and tapping them at just the right time, and
Especially
it talks about
against an Allomancer, because we haven't seen
we only saw him
feruchemist
brute
fight
force his way against Koloss. Now he's
And
like got to fight enemies that
Inquisitor.
think.
Like an Inquisitor, no less.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool.
No wonder the Lord Ruler was trying to get rid of these people.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring up the thinking of the zinc feruchemist metal mind and how it stores mental speed. First of all, I like the idea of maybe like an evil feruchemist who like stores it and becomes an evil genius at times. And that would be a cool little one-off story. But also, would a dumb person have to store to reach the level of a smart person that could store it? Like if the smart person was storing maybe 5%, would the dumb person have to store 50 to catch up? And what if the dumb person is really good at like one thing that the smart person isn't? Like what if the dumb person is like actually really good with basic level multiplication tables, while the smart person totally sucks at them but is really good at long versions?
Yeah,
I challenge your supposition. It's mental speed, not mental prowess.
Ah.
So if it takes me 10 minutes to solve a math problem and I store up a bunch of mental speed, during the time I'm storing, it might take me 15 minutes to solve that math problem, but when I'm done storing, it would take me 3 or 5 or whatever, depending on how quickly I released it.
That actually, I wasn't thinking of that. Mental speed, not ability. That makes sense.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I would argue that it's mental speed, not a mental ability, so that I agree with what John was saying.
Thanks, John. Okay, you can get the fun climax.
Okay. Alright, so we flip back to Ben and Elend, and they go over and they walk over to the pool. You see that it's filled with some sort of like silvery substance, kind of looks maybe like liquid metal. And Vin is like just enraptured by this. But then the Mist Spirit comes up, and Vin is like very much like, don't get near it, don't get near it. It's bad, it's terrible. And Elend is like, oh, it's not bad. It was like I saw it when it was when I was coming back to Luthadel, and it was trying to tell me something. It wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to tell me something. So he comes up close to it, and as he comes up close to it, it slashes him across the stomach into a very deep gut wound.
My precious.
Then flip back to Sazed. We flip back to Sazed. So, Ham is the one who came and saved Sazed. He's the one who knocked Marsh out. And Sazed quickly gets up and starts walking down the stairs to try to get to Finn, because his goal is to try to get to her before she goes into the Well of Ascension. Before she goes into the well.
Which has all been fine, but back to Elend.
So, I'm getting there. Calm down.
This is how I'm feeling.
So, we flip back. So, Vin is distraught. Needless to say, she's distraught. And she can tell that he is dying. And she looks at the pool and she goes, I can save him. If I use this power, I can save him with it. And so she goes and she steps into the pool.
I want to comment on the imagery of her using her mist cloak to wrap up Elend's wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that this comfort of her is trying to bring some comfort to Elend. And, considering what happens to him in the next chapter, it is also sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but she's giving him her sign of being a Mistborn right here, to heal the wound, to hold back the death.
Yeah.
It's also probably the worst thing she could have done for him, because that cloak is full of ash and dirt and gross.
Koloss blood and who knows.
Yeah,
It's the best thing that she had at the time.
I mean, yeah, but doesn't Elend wear a cape?
Sazed, she had an entire week where she was out cold. Sazed would have.
So
yeah, but how long was she out wandering around in the city before she finally got up the gumption to go into Creedic Shaw? I'm just saying.
Not very long. From what it sounds like. It said she saw Elend, she talked to Elend, and immediately went to Creedic Shaw.
Poor Elend. I just walked back basically from the Terrace Mountains. Now we're walking into Creedic Shaw. Now we're walking into the Well of Ascension. And now I get stabbed by the Mist Spirit.
So we switch back to Sazed. So Sazed is walking down the stairs, and then he's desperately trying to get to Vin. And then he feels a tremor run through the rocks. And he knows that he's too late. So Vin is in the pool. And she feels the power come onto her, and she feels it pushing into her skin, through her pores, through her eyes, through her nose, through her mouth, through her ears, through every possible part of her. She feels this power pouring into her. She has to rip her earring out of her ear. She has to drop her metal vials so she doesn't have any piece of metal on her at all. And she starts to burn. And she equates it to the feeling of burning metals in her stomach. But instead of just her stomach, it's her whole body. And she ascends to this power. She has the power of all of creation now. And she can see, she could remake the world, she could change everything, she could fix everything. And she looks down at Elend and she sees she knows how to heal him. She knows exactly what is wrong with him. She knows how she could fix him. And she hears a voice that says, "You mustn't do it. You know what you must do." And she does know. And she looks down at Elend and she thinks to herself, she's like, he would want me. He would want me to do the right thing. He wouldn't want me to save him. He would want me to save his people instead. To do the right thing and give up this power. Give up the power to save him. That is what he would want. And so she does it. She gives up this power. And she feels it. She feels it rush out of her. And as it is rushing out of her, she hears a voice. A distinct sentence that rings in her mind. And it just says, "I am free."
Yes.
Me on Friday.
Accurate.
No time to think about that. I didn't want to bring it up until now, but in John's chapter, Elend gives Spook his tea. Like, we have seen, even like as recently as that, Elend has always been putting the needs of others before his own. And I just like that Sanderson did like a final note of that to remind us in the first chapter of this part.
It's what, yeah, because like that's how Vin describes when she makes that decision not to save him, is that it's what he would have wanted. He would have wanted the people to stay free, and he would give his life for them in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true.
And that's her big character change throughout this book too, is in the beginning of the book, she never would have let Elend die. It would have been like, sorry to use an external reference, but it would have been like the end of The Last of Us. Like, she would have let the chance of everyone being saved go just so that she could have her one love, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's sorry, you can go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out how to say, like, we go from the beginning of this book where she is doing everything in her power to keep Elend alive, so much so that she begins to question why she's even doing it. Like, it's even her being there helping Elend. And now she's gotten to the point where she is there. She's literally defeated an army of Koloss, put 3 kings to swear fealty to him, and she has to let him die in order to give him what he really wants.
And that's true love. It's like not about control, really. It's like, you want to respect someone's intentions and have their best interests at heart while not controlling them or letting them really control you. Like, I think they're a really cool relationship, like in books. One of the few like Cosmere relationships that I like really, really like. It's too bad Elend's dead now.
No, I'm not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
I'm feeling much better, really.
No, I'm not dead yet. I can dance and I can sing. I am not dead yet. I can do that rippling. I'm coming.
Bring out your
No need
dad.
to call the bed. No need to call the doctor because I'm not yet dead.
Anything else for 58 then, other than it being an emotional roller coaster that
Yes,
I totally
feel
haven't cried over?
So much. We have so much to talk about.
Very
Oh my god.
ominous ending. I remember the first time that I read this and I was like, oh No.
I had to stop and I placed the book down and I left. And I like let it sit there for like half a day when I read that.
It's like,
Oh, no.
It's like, oh, what did they do?
I don't. Well, I stopped when Ellen got slashed, so, but this is like even worse.
You got dead, yo.
Yeah. It's insane. It's insane. Like literally this series starts out and it starts out on a crazy note. Like, okay, we have this godlike figure and we have to take him down. And that's pretty insane. But then like book 2 is a little bit tame up until this point, in my opinion. Like because it's all like, oh yeah, there's this prophecy, or there's this well, but it's not, until now, it's not like real. And I don't know how deep I want to go with what I'm thinking here, but reading this gives me, well, it just gives me a sense of a grander scale. Like if this is something like we were talking about is older than the Lord Ruler, this is like the most intense concentration of power that we see for a long time in the Cosmere. Like, just, I want you to be thinking about this chapter. It's like, like if we were going through these books, like trying to figure out the grander scheme of things, this one chapter is like a thing we would keep coming back to be like, what was that? And I love it. It's so mysterious and magical to me.
Any thoughts from you, John?
Yes, I was just about to pipe up.
Sorry.
When I read this, probably the first 2 or 3 times, I completely dismissed the whole black smoke when they first came into the chamber thing. And it wasn't really until this time that I registered what that was all about. Like, I mean, I understand the whole idea that, like, what's going on in the background that we'll talk about in the spoiler section, whatever, but I always just kind of dismissed it. Like, I never registered. I've read the Dead Tree edition, I've listened to the audiobooks, I've just probably half a dozen times, and it wasn't until this time that I was like, oh, duh. I'm pretty oblivious sometimes, as it turns out.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, but for anyone who doesn't, could you just like...
Just stick around for another week. You'll get it.
Yeah. We'll be covering the entire book in its entirety next episode, along with the epilogue. So we'll try to cover everything then.
All right, fair. Good plug.
Or if you've already read these books, you can stick around for the spoiler section, and we will be talking about more about this in the spoiler section.
It's going to be a busy spoiler section.
Oh, yeah. But before we get to that, chapter 59, and we get the true warning from Kawan, for he must not be allowed to release the thing that is imprisoned there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Vin cradles Elend's dying body. She feels dead inside, knowing that releasing the power in the world was a mistake. The mist spirit tries to grab her attention, pointing to the bead that Elend apparently dropped, that I thought was back at the entrance. But Vin can't even look up. There was no time, nobody would get there. And the wound that it gave Elend to stop her from releasing the power, to make her want to take it in and heal him, the wound would kill him before any of that would happen. Vin, realizing this, slowly follows the mist spirit, picks up the metal bead, and she goes to swallow it immediately. But the spirit, tells her, in quotation marks, no, and she gives it to Elend, and she uses one of her vials to help him swallow it. Metal vials that have shavings inside. Then, oddly, the color seemed to return to his cheeks. Vin knelt, confused, watching him. She burned bronze, and with shock felt pulses coming from Elend. He was burning pewter. And the smile on my face could not get any better.
Y'all are all over there like, And I'm all over here like, what? No way.
Well, it's so cool. And Ellen, this entire book, we have seen, like, from the very beginning when he watches Vin's match with Ham, like, he's like, oh, I would give anything for any of them, even one of the lesser abilities. And, like, even as recently as when he's walking the spook, he's like, oh, what I wouldn't give for some Allomancy. And now he has it. And now we have the tiniest hint on where Allomancy came in from this world.
I also like to think that he earned it too. Like he set himself up to be such a respectable man that his girlfriend would have let him die to save the rest of the world, and that was like his trial in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, he's been displaying all these characteristics of not being afraid of the mist and doing everything he has to do with no power. Like, I think it's really cool that he gets it. But I had the same reaction as you, John, the first time when I wasn't paying so much attention. I was just like, did this need to happen? I felt like the dynamic of him being weaker than her was kind of cool. But he definitely earns it.
Yeah. I love that. I know it's the shortest chapter in all the book, but it might be my favorite. Because you've got, well, not just because Elend is my favorite character, but you've got Vin at her lowest. She has let Elend die, the love of her life. She has released the power in the well, which she has been told this entire book is like the best thing she can do. She's the hero of ages. Will stop the deepness. But she knows it was the wrong decision based on it yelling, I am free, just like pure instinct. She made the wrong decision. Something was wrong with that entire thing. And she's now cradling Ellen's dead body.
Well,
Dying.
dead-ish.
Dying.
Dying body. Pretty much dead. And, like, she, on, like, a last whim, like, one last inkling of trust in the creature that basically just tried to kill her husband, she picks up this small little bead of metal and puts it into him, and he becomes a Mistborn. I love it.
A titular Mistborn.
Why
My
is it
excitement knows no bounds.
Why is it that you don't like it as much, John?
I guess I don't mind it so much now, having read the greater Cosmere, but as a standalone work, it's a deus ex machina. It's, oh look, here's something that does a thing and it just saved the day. Like, it's literally a senzu bean in this moment.
I would agree.
I just felt like, at the time of reading, don't get me wrong, I was totally stoked. I was like, oh my god, he's alive, whatever. But then, like, I thought about it and I'm like, in this moment, in this book, that was a total cop-out. I can't let the main character die. Here, have a magic nugget.
Okay,
like, that's how it feels in the moment.
I want to talk more on that in the spoiler section, but also, like, that was kind of what happened in the Final Empire too, where Vin is fighting the Lord Ruler and she can't beat him, and then the mists come into her, and we get no explanation on that.
It absolutely was. Haven't. But we do. We a little bit. We get a better understanding of it.
Basically, she's the hero. That was the explanation we got.
It's been so long since I've read the third book, but I feel like we get a better explanation of it in book 3.
We do. We
do in book 3.
But so far in this book, we don't have any explanation on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a thing, and in the moment, it was a little unsatisfying. Especially the first time around. And I think that's part of why this book has, I don't want to say a bad reputation, but it's the least lauded, I guess, of the Mistborn series.
Because when you make a brand new trilogy, the first one's got to be the standalone. It's got to have things that can be in the next two, but it's got to be standalone so you want to come back for the others, whilst not just relying on the story doesn't end. So it has its own kind of standaloneness, and then the second one is just okay. The first one did good. You came back for the second. You're gonna come back for the third. So this one is all, for the most part, set up, in which Brandon actually spends a lot of this book not being set up, and you have the whole Koloss army and the two others that are surrounding Luthadel.
It still is a lot of setup.
It is. And it's also this whole section, these 4 chapters, are very disjointed from the rest of the book, right? Like, I was sitting here listening to our synopses of these chapters, and I'm like, this doesn't even feel like the same book that we've been going through for the last however many months, right? Like, it feels very different. Like, we've gone from this very contained, very terrestrial, very real, like, war story to total, like, mysticism, basically. You know, it's just completely changed the way you feel reading these chapters, right? Like, it's a whole different thing.
But it's, as you say, the context of the greater Cosmere changes the way it comes across. Like, this is a really special moment. It's not like this is happening all the time. And that's why it's so jarring, but it's also, like, why it's cool to me, too.
Oh, yeah. And coming back to it, like you said before, this is a chapter where you're like, every time you get one of those little nuggets of information for, like, the next 8 books, you come back and you're like, oh, that's what was happening. And that is where I really started going nuts with the Cosmere and started, you know, reading the wikis and cross-referencing books and stuff like that. And so it's super important, but it feels disjointed from the rest of the book.
I'll agree with that. Like, these mainly 2 chapters that just, like, jump around points of view like 16 different times, I feel like could have been spread. Like, we spent how many parts on, like, part 2, part 3? Like, I feel like he could have maybe doubled the chapters.
I am not myself an author, so I'm not going to comment as to that. But
yeah,
he does bring constant reminders throughout the book of, hey, there's this Well of Ascension subplot that's going on along this whole ride that we're reading through. Only now it's not the subplot anymore. It's the plot of, like, 12 books.
Yeah.
The scope goes crazy.
I would agree with you, John. It definitely does feel like these last 4 chapters fit more with book 3 than they do with the rest of book 2.
I feel like it has kind of that interest scope problem too, of, like, some series you're watching and you're really invested in this overall plot, like what's really going on behind the scenes here, and some series you're, like, more invested in the day-to-day. Like, I think of, like, a show like Lost or something. You're like, all these characters are lost in the island and I'm really interested in their day-to-day activities, but, like, there's something going on here and I need to know what that is. Like, I feel like Mistborn, for me, the more enjoyable parts of it have been, like, the crew and their plans and all that. Like, and so, like, this back end stuff, I guess it really depends on how invested in you are. Like, if you paid attention to those epigraphs and you were trying to figure this out the whole time, I could see this being your favorite part of the book.
Yeah, and I think this should have been, like, maybe just, like, 57, 58 should have been 4 chapters in total. And you should have had, like, Elend and Vince spending a night together back in Keep Venture, and maybe take some time for them to recover. Because this is like, okay, we learned that a week has passed. Vin has basically been in a coma. Elend just got back. And, like, we're immediately heading to Critic Shop.
Yeah,
like, there is a bit of, it doesn't slow down, but it also feels like it should have.
yes, but no. Because it is very much that, like, Vin is very much a, like, go, go, go type person. It wouldn't really fit with who she is to, like,
Sit around.
sit around.
Yeah. I just feel like a little
like-
pause here.
She's awake,
Works well.
Elend's back. She's like, let's go.
Plus, she has the impetus of being able to hear the pulses, so she's not going to stop and sit around, especially now that she's doesn't have the pressure of the invading armies and the Koloss and all of that.
Well,
And she's constantly hearing those pulses in her head that's pushing her to go do this.
I just realized she had the same character arc as Elendi, where she started out not believing, and then the prophecies just kept being put in her face until the point where she believed it, and now at the end it's like full circle, where she's like leading people to the Well of Ascension, thinking she's the hero.
might I also add, like, maybe it would have been cool to have a chapter where, like, she and Ellen are trying to relax, but she keeps doing, Ellen's like, okay, let's go. I have full faith in you. Let's follow this. And that could be Sazed is at night working on his thing with Tindwell.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it makes sense with their characterizations.
Okay, I disagree, which is weird because I'm the one like saying this is like the best part.
I think the pacing of this last couple of chapters was definitely intentional. I think he definitely wanted it to feel frantic and urgent and different from the rest of the book because it's so major to the greater Cosmere. But without having had that to connect it to, it's kind of gives you whiplash.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there was a way to. I don't want to say fix it because obviously it works, but
yeah,
to change it to make it feel more natural, I don't know. And maybe Brandon now, if he had written it now as a more experienced author, would have. Maybe he wouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's just maybe something changes in the movies.
It's kind of sad because I feel like maybe the intended way he wanted us to receive this was kind of like a yes and of like, yes, the well is real and Ellen's a Mistborn now. How badass is that? Like,
and it is. I love it.
And it is, but it does kind of come out of like left field.
Yeah. I think we've done a good set of summary for the entire part really quickly.
Yeah, I think so.
So why don't we head on into the spoiler section? Before we do that, next episode we will be doing the epilogue. So far, we've got it in 3 parts. We are going to cover Sazed's journey, Kawan's warning, and Vin and Elend. Then we're going to do our spoiler section. Actually, then we're going to do a book synopsis, a ranking, and then we're going to do all that into the spoiler section as well on that. And that's what we'll be covering for next episode. And that will be our last episode of Well of Ascension, at least until the movie comes out.
Whenever that, if that ever happens.
Yeah.
When that happens.
What if they started with Well of Ascension, not Final Empire?
That'd be very confusing and a big, big mistake.
Who's this Kelsier guy? They keep bringing him up. I don't understand.
He's not important.
Not important.
He just keeps coming up in flashbacks. Like the entire Final Empire is told as flashbacks.
Oof.
Experimental.
No. Too artsy.
Yep.
It's Kelsier.
Then we do the Final Empire as a prequel.
Now you've gone George Lucas
boy.
on us.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sticking around so far into this episode. We're going to go into the spoiler section now. We highly recommend that if you have not read this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, you stop here because it is likely we'll talk about everything and anything. However, if you are up to date on this story, feel free to stick around. It's highly will bring up details you may have forgotten, plot threads that are still yet to come. please be sure to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, whatever it is on this podcast, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. We would love to hear from you. But if this is where we have to leave you, then my name is Reader, and I have been joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Elend must not be allowed to finish the Well of Ascension.
John.
I don't have anything for this part either.
And Kay.
Have a good one.
And this has been Cosmere Connections. And we're back! The spoiler section. We have a lot to cover this time.
Oh my gosh, there's so much.
Where to begin? Where to begin?
Well, let's start at the beginning. Chapter 56. We have the epigraph changed from I have instructed the lad to kill Elend. That's what it is, but Sazed had it as I have instructed the lad to kill my former friend, which we talked about previously on why that's different. Then the rest of it is Elend's talk with the terrorist people. And I wanted to... Why is Preservation trying to lead Elend away, considering that Elend is kind of his last hope at stopping Vin?
I think probably because he's hoping that if Elend isn't there, that Vin would leave as well. Also, I think that's my guess. Actually, that's my guess, but I don't actually know.
Dang, if I had an answer, I could recover from her.
It's because if Rashik fails to lead Elend astray, then I have instructed the lad to kill my former friend.
Spook. We should have known.
It is kind of like that, though. Like, if he gets failed to get left away, then he gets killed by the mist spirit.
Yeah. I wonder if Feruchemical site, does it look through mist as well? Because we know that Allomancy can do it because the mist are basically made of the same vesture.
I don't
think
think
not.
so. I don't think so because Allomancy is of preservation and the mists are also of preservation. But Feruchemy is net neutral. It's not more preservation or more ruin.
Mm-hmm.
Although we have seen Sazed be able to track down Vin on like a stormy night in the Final Empire when they were at Critic Shah. I don't know, was it misty that night?
It's misty every night.
Sounds like a very Scadrial conversation.
Okay. And the reason that the Inquisitors were raiding the terrace home was because they needed spikes. Anything else for 56? Okay. 57! No change in the epigraph.
Sazed has spikes.
Yes.
He's allergic. Has Koloss spikes.
Oh, they were there, right there in front of us.
Which I hadn't ever noticed before.
They call them nails too, so it's like it slips under the radar.
I'm so glad that I'm not the only person discovering things for the first time on this read-through.
Oh.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. It's just so casually dropped. It's kind of like when they mentioned Orsur in the Final Empire. It's just like another one of those cute little details.
Or ten soon.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And Ruin kind of shoots himself in the foot here with all of his last minute changes. Like, why is he even trying to do all this to Sazed right now?
I don't know. That's what I was also a little bit confused about. Why did Ruin decide to change that to First Holy Witness? Was it to try to convince?
It's because that's what the dude called Sazed.
But why did
Yeah,
he think
but-
that was a good idea to change that?
That's what kind of pushes Sazed over the edge and realize maybe something is happening. Maybe
Yeah.
Ruin was thinking, like, this would take longer and this will help improve
I-
my chances.
I think it could have been a little bit of that, but I think it was also to help reinforce that Vin was the hero. And to help convince Sazed to push her to go find the well and get her out so that he could destroy the... Because remember, Ruin wants the... Yeah, I can talk about this. This is a spoiler. So Ruin wants the atium. He wants his body, right? And he doesn't know where it is. And everybody says it's in Luthadel, so he wants Luthadel smashed to find the atium, right? And if Vin is gone looking for the well, not only does that help set him free, but it also helps him find the atium. So by convincing Sazed that he plays a part in this, Sazed turns around and pushes Vin to go do the thing, which is twofold benefit for Ruin.
But it's a question of, at this point, why did Ruin decide to change that from the announcer to the First Holy Witness? Because
I think that
at this point,
Sorry.
like, that's such a modern, that's a very, like, it's a present day term that they're using. It's not
Right. It's
something
because
from the prophecy.
right. So in the prophecy, it was the announcer, right?
Mhm.
So when Sazed is out fighting the Koloss, and those townspeople come up and they're like, "Oh, you're the holy first witness."
Mhm.
That's when Ruin changes it, right? That's when he's like, "Oh, I can use this."
Right, we get that.
and he just
It just seems a little.
that's
on the
what I
nose.
understand. Yeah, it's too much of a tweak. It's too big of a
It's too
tweak.
obvious. It's too obvious a change.
Right. But tell me you saw that the first time you guys read through this.
I did not though, but it's what
That's the
pushes
thing,
Sazed
like-
to
right.
realize that. Yeah,
But Sazed
this
had...
is what screws over Ruin, kind of.
Right, because
Well, not
preservation's
really.
like, yoink, 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 yoink.
Not really, because he gets what he wants.
Well, I just mean with like the pages removing that
Yeah.
sentence.
There was actually a.
Oops.
I'm trying to remember it. Give me a second.
What do you got?
I have it in my notes, but I don't know what the. It says
What
in
do
order
you-
to preserve it.
What are you looking for?
There was a. Give me a second. I'm sorry. I have a line in my notes that has the quotes, meaning I took it directly from the book.
Is
And
this
it says, in order to preserve it.
Is that from 57? Because I remember that.
Probably.
It's when Sazed's
considering we're still
crying on the
that.
book. It says, in order to
Yeah.
preserve it, he wipes it away with his sleeve.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could have sworn there was more to it. Okay, but it was just, here's a fun little haha preservation thing. And Swiggity, I noticed that from you. Don't think you're getting. You thought you were being sly.
Yeah, so he's caught between ruining and preserving these memories. Which is true.
Yeah,
Like,
I
that's
do.
so true to his character. He ruins the Final Empire, but he preserves the central dominance or whatever.
Yeah. There was the comment about the 14 lands that Elend used to rule. I seriously am starting to think that maybe Classical Scadrial was Space Age, and 14 lands could be referred to 14 planets.
No.
I think it's a possibility.
Just know.
Are we still on 56?
No, because
We're
the
still
people.
on 57, yes.
Why would that wouldn't make any sense? Because so they were more technologically advanced than the than the current, like the Scadrials of Era 1, because we do know that they had gunpowder.
Wait,
But
we know
I
they had
just think it would be
gunpowder?
cool. I think
yeah.
it could tie into a lot of things that Sanderson
They-
has been really tight-lipped about for no apparent reason.
They did have gunpowder, and the Lord Ruler suppressed the knowledge of gunpowder, because guns are a lot easier for people to use who don't have training, as opposed to bow and arrow and swords, which you need a lot more training to use effectively.
And Allomancy.
So it was another way to control.
Where is Statland City and why is it circled? It's circled because it has a storehouse in it, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
And we never actually see it. It takes place in between 2 and 3.
Oh, that's a shame. We basically see the very end of that saga, right?
Correct.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we see the last two, essentially.
So that's just the first city they probably go to, and they find another
Mhm.
storehouse there.
With another map.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they go to 3 of the 5 in between the books. I think.
I'll take your
Kinda
word on it.
Kind of reaching back in my brain for that. I'm not sure. To be
Right.
verified later.
True. Does that mean that Rashek created these storage houses when he ascended, or did he at one point in time build those kingdoms just to build storage spaces there?
Uncertain. I don't think they ever confirmed that one way or the other. I'm pretty sure he built the spaces, like the caverns, during his ascension, and then I believe he put the cities there to make it easy to store the canned goods, and it's like right there.
Later
Excuse me.
established cities at those
So
places.
Right.
yeah. So
Okay.
there were 5 caverns total. So Luthadel, Statland, Berto,
And Fadric City.
Vatian, and Fadric City. So Vatian
How do you
is
have
the one,
this?
because I just pulled up Coppermind.
Okay.
Duh.
Well, she could have been pulling it off of memory, and I wasn't going to guess it.
So Vatian is the city that we see at the beginning of Hero of Ages that they capture. So we actually see most of the storage. The only storage cavern that we don't see is the one in Statland City.
I'm gonna write a Mistborn book set in Statland City. Everyone's obsessed with stats.
Well, it's literally Stalin with a T.
The other thing I wanted to ask about is, so why do the mist sickness? Why does this start ramping up here? Does anyone know?
I would just say it kind of
I mean,
adds into the whole climax rule of cool, but also maybe Ruin is now at his strongest he is without being free.
I think it has to do with the fact that the well is now full.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why the pulsings are so loud now. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's all connected.
And it's been and it has been slowly moving closer to Luthadel, where the well is. So it got to Luthadel at the same time that the well became full.
Okay.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense.
Yep. We've got Sazed trying to stop Vin and think about before taking the powers of godhoods. Maybe 16 others should have done that.
They did think about it. They decided that it was a good idea to kill God.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever a good idea. And then we've got Marsh being controlled by Ruin and being so allomantically strong, he's able to push investiture-filled copper mines.
Whoa, I never thought about that. And this is basically like ruin versus preservation here.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not being invested that makes them hard to manipulate. It is having them pierce the skin.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's both. Because
No.
Wax even says in later, like, yeah, because that's how the spear, they don't think that the spear is anything but aluminum. Because copper mines full of investiture are difficult to push on.
But that's something that's like, I think that's something that's like heavily, heavily invested. I don't think that Sazed's copper mines are that heavily invested.
Right, and even if they were all that heavily invested, they're still pretty minuscule. Like,
Well, these are his religion bracers, I'm guessing, right? These are his main copper mines that he usually keeps on himself.
We don't actually know what bracers that he's wearing at this point because they don't say.
True, but I'm like, this is Sazed. I'm willing to bet like these are his usual ones that he probably doesn't feel comfortable not wearing. Like when you wear a watch for so long, you take it off and I need it on me, I need it on me. And he probably put it on. So I'm guessing these are like stock filled of his religions.
It mentioned what he was going to use them for. I can't remember what.
He who?
Sazed. There's like one throwaway line about what he was going to use those metal mines for, because it mentions him having the bag earlier, so that you know, like later.
He has the bag full of his emergency rings, and he pulls out the one to use tin, and he hears.
He pulls out two to use tin, one to see Elend when Elend comes, and one to hear what they're saying.
So it's like right when Vin interrupts him in chapter 57.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's weird saying that Ruin does not have perfect control of Flash right now. It's more so like he's just heavily pushing and pulling on his emotions.
He's kind of forcing him to do it, but Marsh still has like control over his mind, and he's able to speak to some degree.
Mm. Anything else for 57? I think Swiggity's still checking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything super substantial.
Okay. 58. That black smoke, that's Ruin, right?
Correct. That is Ruin. That is Ruin's part of Ruin's form. So it's essentially like preservation is the mist outside. And that was Ruin being trapped there, essentially. Like part of his.
This is in the movie, I would take some creative liberty and I would have the pool kind of above it instead of being in like the next room, and kind of it drains down on the sides like walls, forming like a literal cage around it, and like it kind of revolves with itself, and you have you can see the smoke inside this part of it, and it kind of bangs against it every once in a while, and then you have like a large staircase kind of entire leading up to the actual.
Point is that it's not a cage.
Well, it kind of is, but I'm just saying, like, you got to get this visually.
Like for creative
I want there to be a
sake.
visual representation.
There's something kind of cool about it, like being this simple thing too, like a little bit like the stone table in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, of just this ancient object with magic that's been forgotten over time.
Mm.
And so, like,
Do not cite the deep magic to
yes, I was
Oh,
there
yeah,
when
but
it was written.
But that room, preservation created that room.
I
And
was
the
going
one
to ask that. Yeah.
who yeah, preservation created that room and made those pillars to look like that. That's why it's very. It looks like it's man-made, but it's not.
Because it's like Earth. It like is the planet.
Hmm.
I would even shape it to be the Allomantic symbol of preservation. Shape the entire cavern. I could have so much fun. I need to be
How would you
on the
put?
design.
How would you represent that on the screen?
Yeah.
Have it be when they look up, you can see the symbol like in the ceiling, kind of. Like with the limestone building. I don't know. I think it could look really cool.
Trey would
You could
mad at
have
that.
like stone strata that would be patterned that way, but you couldn't shape the room that way because it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work.
If it was like a big circular room and that was like ingrained on the ceiling, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Right. See, that you could do, but
Okay, maybe that. And then maybe at the bottom where the bottom one is, there's ruin symbol.
I really hope if they do a live action, they get somebody great to do the soundtrack. Like, I want some John Williams in this because I'm picturing this scene as just being so majestic.
Oh yeah.
Like an
And you
Indiana
have
Jones style.
you have the tone of preservation kind of fully musicked, but in the background, kind of behind it, you can hear preservation or ruins kind of tapping behind it. And then they replace each other when Vin releases this well and the black smoke kind of rushes out of the room. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I didn't Sazed hearing a voice in his ear.
So I was looking at this earlier because I was curious about it, and I saw something about it. So Sanderson, when he originally wrote it, he wanted that voice to be Kelsier. That was his original plan, was to have that voice be Kelsier talking to Sazed.
I can see that.
But when he actually wrote Secret History, it didn't make sense to have that voice be Kelsier. So it's literally just Sazed. It's literally just Sazed's subconscious. It's not anything
Okay, because I was
magic.
even gonna
It's not
say like
anything like special. Like it's literally just Sazed's subconsciousness.
I was gonna say like it can't be preservation because preservation can't speak, and even if he
Mhm.
could, Sazed's not spiked right now.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's what
no. It definitely reads like there's a literal voice in his head, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that's what it was originally
Oh no,
supposed
and
to
I
be.
called it out on the podcast and everything.
That's why I was like, it's got to be Tindwill's ghost, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Mm. Is it not? It can't be Kelsier?
well,
It's not because Kelsier's in the well, stuck in the well at this point.
Maybe he's just
I suppose it could actually be Tindwell because she would have been pretty highly invested when she died, which would mean her cognitive shadow would linger for a while.
True.
But not that long, because it's been
Probably
weeks.
not. But I mean, you know.
You can give it a little rule of cool there.
I guess
Like have a little bit
yeah,
there.
I like that idea. I just wanted to mainly like call out that when people have metal in their skin, they can hear voices.
We've got our first look at Lerasium,
Mm-hmm.
which was really cool.
Unless you count the cover of the book.
It's on the cover of the book.
Oh,
Oh, that's not right. I hate Sanderson.
that
so
is
much.
Lerasium.
It was there the whole
Nice.
time, everybody.
Oh, come on.
Right in
I
front
hate
of
him
you.
so
Just like
much.
the Well of Ascension.
So the evil zinc fairing that I commented on earlier, that's basically just Teravagian.
Yes. I was going to say that earlier, but we were not in the spoiler section.
I had that same thought too,
Yes.
actually.
You've got Kelsier once again killing nobles even beyond the grave. He cannot help himself.
Well, but to be fair, he did it because he knew how much Vin cared for him. And he was like, there's no way she's just gonna let him die.
Which is a good little, like, he does not know Vin has evolved.
And
Yeah.
he doesn't know how she's changed.
Mhm. But also, like, preservation couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Because preservation can't destroy.
That's so scary
he
to
can
think about.
preserve.
That's how Kelsier thinks. Like, he would
The best way to stop
sacrifice.
this.
Yeah. He would sacrifice her love. Because he doesn't know what she's going to choose. He thinks, obviously he was confident that that's what she would do. But, it's still a
I gotta wonder
gamble.
what would have happened if it did work like the way Kelsier thought. If Vin did take the power and healed Elend, I'm willing to bet she would have tried to push the planet, screwed around for basically like what Rashek did.
Maybe she
But
would have ended up in My Hero Academia.
yeah, or maybe in Ruby. Shout out to my fanfics, Metal Like Roses, and my Mistborn Academia.
Links in the description.
Yeah. But I wonder how Elend would have reacted. Like, would have Elend have honestly
I
gotten
think
upset, or would he have
no.
understood?
He would have understood. He wouldn't have gotten upset.
Especially when they realized, oh, this was actually the right call.
Yeah.
The only thing Vin technically had to remove when she stepped into it was her hemalurgic spike.
Yeah. Correct.
But I like that you kind of get that she quickly removed all the other metals on her body to hide that fact.
Yeah. Don't want to draw too much attention to it.
What do you think would have happened if
The
she...
inconsequential earring that's just been kind of there for this whole book and most of the last book, and we still don't understand why it's important.
She
He's
hasn't
so
had
sly.
that nagging voice in a while, though, huh?
No.
Yeah, that is true. We don't get much of
Reen.
Ruin interacting with Vin in this book. I think briefly we get a little bit of that when
We get it a couple times.
Yeah, when Zane is trying to like lure her away and stuff like that, but it's very not much in this book.
Well, he speaks to her right now as a kind, elderly voice.
Because now it works in his favor for her to be confident, for her to feel like she is the hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, you will ruin the world. Ah, shut up, 18.
Well, and he did not tell a lie when he said, I will destroy the deepness for you.
True. I hate him. He's such a good villain. Such a manipulative piece of Kremlin.
Is the deepness the mists or the mist sickness? Or both,
Yes.
I guess.
Both.
Okay. Just good to get that out.
Basically, originally, they helped snap people who could allomantically, who had allomancy. Preservation could not stop that, but he could push it further where it started trying to snap people randomly, but people who can't snap die.
No,
So he pushed that to his extreme.
Ruin pushed it farther.
Yeah,
Ruin is the one.
Yeah, Ruin did that.
Yeah.
Did I not make that clear?
Ruin, you said preservation, so I wanted to clarify that. Ruin was the one who pushed it to make it so that people would start dying more.
So it's like a natural
Also
thing that just kind of happens. That's like how people snap. like naturally, but then Ruin like
Yeah.
kind of enhanced it, and now it's like killing people.
Yes, and also coming out in the day and suffocating the plant
Mhm.
life and everything.
I wonder if that's like a function in the Cosmere. Like you have these shards, and they have, these certain aspects of themselves that manifest in these different uh, kind of activities. Like we've seen with in Stormlight, there's the death rattles and the thrill, and it's like these kind of sub powers that are like vaguely linked to these larger shardic powers. I wonder if that's going to be a theme we'll see going forward. If there are any other examples like that.
Probably.
I mean, on like Roshar's a good example of it because you have those, and then you also have like the Stormfather, who's a very big part of Honor's power manifest. And on I would say on in Warbreaker, you see it with the Returned.
Mhm.
And even though they're technically constructs, the Aeons from Elantris too.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's so interesting.
I feel
I
like
love.
the Aeons were kind of a trial run for Spren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just random thought that popped into my head just now.
Well,
I
we'll
just
find out in Elantris 2 and 3.
Spren are so, to me, okay, you know how in anime when like you get the angry woman and she starts stomping and they do like the crazy background and they put like just a chibi version of her and she's got that little flashing thing here. That's where Spren came from. 110%. Or, when somebody does something embarrassing and there's like that little random teardrop that shows like right there. It's just
They're
like,
anime characters.
they are 100% anime emotes.
I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly happy with that. I mean, I've got a little sill kind of water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
They're anime emotes you can kill people with. For justice.
Well, the more powerful ones, yeah.
That's
His looks could kill. Well, maybe not, but emotions can.
We had a cool conversation about how if you could like riot somebody enough, you might be able to give them a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
I could imagine the Lord Ruler just like looking at you and like your heart exploding.
I can see that.
Going off on a tangent of that.
Right. Is there more that people want to say?
I have a few more. So there's when Vin has the power, she makes a comment, life could only exist in a small area at the poles. Ha! I see what you're doing there. It was there in front of us the entire time.
The Southern Scadrians.
Southern Scadrial. So how is Ruin whispering to Vin? She has no earring. Is there like Shardic FM radio that allows them to communicate?
Yes. Because so the shards are able to communicate with each other. Because
Breaker
we see
19,
it.
this is Harmony calling in.
Well, we
Who's
see
out
it
there?
with we see it in the next book in Hero of Ages when Vin ascends.
Yeah, but like this
she's
is a
able to
really
talk to
weird
Ruin.
point where Vin hasn't ascended yet.
But she's
holding the power though.
She's holding the power though. She's holding the power, and she's holding the power that's keeping his prison locked. So that power is directly connected to Ruin's prison, to what is keeping Ruin imprisoned.
But she hasn't like ascended fully.
But she still
has the choice
power.
to give up the power or
but
to
she's
ascend.
still holding that power.
Okay.
Furthermore, because she's holding it, she's got that increased connection to it. Just like we see with oh, help me out, brain. Stop being this way.
Risen?
No, not Risen. That's something different.
True. But somebody talks to her.
Maybe it's kind of
Yeah,
like
that's-
when you have the keys in a car and you don't turn the car on, but you got it in and you turn it that one, and the car technically comes to life, and
Well-
you can mess with the radio and roll down the windows.
trying to think who else has been. I guess Kelsier kind of, when he briefly touches the power, he can do that too. We really don't have a whole lot of splinters.
No.
By the way, I read a thing the other day, and I'm wondering if any of you have also found this. Apparently, oh god, what's his name? Not from Elantris, the head guy of the.
Rayoden?
Nope, not Rayoden. The
Harathan?
Go.
Wraith,
The G guy?
Prathan? Is it Prathan?
no, Wraithen's the priest, the god that he follows.
Oh, yeah.
Dominion?
Is Dominion, yeah.
Shootereth. Or
Shugareth, yeah.
Shooter.
Yeah, what about?
Apparently he's an avatar.
No.
Of Dominion?
Of,
Yeah.
of ambition. Of
Autonomy.
Dominion. Of autonomy?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Autonomy's
'Cause
the only one
that's-
that makes avatars.
Oh,
No, that can't be the case.
that's news to me.
Okay,
I saw
we'll
this-
argue that. Let's argue that later.
I saw it online the other day, so I just assume that it's correct, but, you know.
I'm just
feel like
gonna
it was
say
on
no.
Yeah. You know what's funny is
We
this
can
is
argue
like
that later.
one of the most
Yeah, I don't
spoilery
know.
things out of all the
Yeah.
books we finally have.
Let me see if I can find this.
But then, anything else for chapter 58? This is kind of like the big spoiler one.
I'm not remembering exactly where this chapter cuts off and where the next one starts. Like,
I am free. Ruin escapes.
That's where it ends.
so what exactly happened there? He's been released. He's been freed.
He's been released. He's been freed.
What does this mean for Scadrial? I mean, I don't really remember.
So it's the beginning of the end. It is. It's the beginning of the end of the world.
The Mystics gets worse. The Ashments gets worse.
Mhm.
So Ruin starts to destroy the world because his goal is to destroy the world. Because that was the deal that he made with preservation. Was that
He
one day
starts-
he would get to destroy the world.
He starts building up his armies. He's got now full control of the
And he's also-
Inquisitors.
He's trying
having
to
them.
find the ATM.
Yep.
So he's keeping an eye on Finn and Elend as they're going to the different storage caverns to try to find the ATM.
Oh, it would have been kind of cool if we knew all of that going into this chapter. And then when it's finally released, we knew like the full extension of that. Because right now
Yeah.
it's like if you don't know, it seems like more of a vague threat.
Yeah, it's kind of just a like, oh crap.
What happened?
Yeah.
Something went wrong.
Same as like the
What
end of the
went
Final
wrong?
Empire.
Yeah.
Okay, so 59. You've got basically preserving Elend, in which this is kind of my thing on, yes, and it does seem like a Deus Ex Machina to save Elend, but it doesn't keep him alive. This only, well, it doesn't heal him. And Vin even later says at the end of Hero of Ages, metals do not heal you, they simply keep going. And like this, Elend does not live to the end of the book. He does not, grow old, have kids with Vin. Like he dies. This was only to keep him.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of my justification for I'm fine with this being a Deus Ex Machina. Because
I'm fine with
it doesn't thick. I don't think John's listening. He's too busy trying to look for that.
I found it. It's Yadith
Okay.
is the character that I was thinking of.
Jedith.
And it comes from a word of Brandon out of a Shardcast.
Oh, come on.
Womp womp. That's a thing.
I gotta check this. I believe
I'll
you.
paste
but
you a
I'm
link.
checking.
Can I throw out a random prediction while it's on my mind?
Do it.
I feel like in the act of Kelsier stabbing Elend as the mist spirit, he fully embodies this idea I have of him as being someone who can ruin to preserve in a way that Sazed never could. I think that when it's all said and done, he's going to be harmony. Truly. Bold prediction, but there it is.
I didn't want to say it until like we actually see Vin ascend. But Vin is not preservation. She is protection.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's a windrunner. We knew this.
she kills
Yeah,
a lot
that's true.
to protect.
But I feel like there was more I wanted to bring up. Because I wanted to defend Elend's Deus Ex Machina.
I mean, it's not a sin to be Deus Ex Machina. It's just awkward. And
No, it's not.
I think even Brandon feels that way a little bit, but because he knew the greater story before any of us did, he was more okay with it, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted,
Maybe. I don't
wanted
know.
to
It's
bring
all
up-
speculation.
So those beads of Lerasium were there because presumably those were the beads he gave to the original Mistborn. I'm talking about Rashik.
Yes, so we don't know how the Lerastian beads got there. We had to search this last time we talked as well. But
sorry.
Rashik did not make them, but he did take some of the beads to give to people who support him, not his friends. He turned them all into Khandra.
He left 2 beads there,
Right.
which we don't know why he left some of them. But he left 2 beads there. One of them was taken by Hoyd when he comes through the well after he beats up Kelsier.
Safandrius.
Secret history, right?
It's Secret Mist.
So Secret Mist.
Secret
Mystery.
Ah,
And
And
then,
then,
See what you did there?
but the Lord Ruler, I think I saw this at one point, is that the Lord Ruler did not take one of those beads.
No, he got his powers from being
Yeah.
a splinter.
so I gotta wonder, was he stronger than the original Allomancers? Like, surely he would have made himself stronger
I
than
think
anybody else.
yes.
I believe he is, yes, because the original Allomancers would have been more on par with what Elend can do.
Mhm.
Which is still
and-
pretty strong, but
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but like,
it's definitely strong. Like he can take over Koloss and Khandra without having to use Duralaman.
even though
which
he
is-
does use Duralum.
Does he?
he
Yeah,
uses it to take over a large number of Koloss at one time.
Okay,
Ah,
that makes
He
sense.
doesn't need to use it to take over individual Koloss. But
Right.
to take over the 20,000 or whatever at once, he used Duralaman just to just
Whoosh,
do
one and
one
done.
big.
because like Ellen never shows the same like power that Rashik kind of does.
Well, but again,
Like-
Rashik is compounding all the time.
Yeah, I was about to point
And-
that out.
Even then, he may well have made himself more powerful as an Allomancer strictly even without compounding, and as a Feruchemist without compounding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I never thought that he might have made himself any stronger.
That's what I would do.
Okay. Are there any other spoilers people want to mention?
No, I think I'm all good. Anybody else? No. Okay, well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us in our ramblings and predictions. Please be sure to remember that there's always another connection. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Adios.
I going.
Don't let the mist wraiths bite.
Was it?
makes
Oh,
sense.
I did listen to the one that I wasn't there for.
Oh, you did?
There was something that I was like, I don't remember what it is now because it's been a minute since I listened to it over the weekend. So it's been a minute. There was something where I was like, oh yeah, y'all are wrong about that. I was like, I know the answer to that. I don't
I'm willing to
remember what it
bet
was.
it was probably the well, Strath poisoning it. We all thought it was Set, but it actually was Strath.
Oh no,
Or
it was John was like, I remember her Vin going up to Set and at some point and like
Yeah, and beating his ass, and then I
beating
was
his
like,
ass.
and then
you
it
were
happened like 3 chapters later.
then it like happened like, and I was like that happened like I knew exactly what you were talking about, what you were trying to remember.
And then
you
you let me sit there feeling like a fool the whole time.
the other people, well, the other two people here.
We didn't remember. I didn't know.
I didn't remember, honestly. I have not read this book in a long time.
No, neither have I. Well, I've only read it once, and
That's, yeah. That was the point where I was like, oh, I was like, I know that I know exactly what John is talking about at this point.
Yeah. Hey, there's a comment section. You can just like point that out right then and there.
I was listening on Spotify. Is there a comment section on Spotify? I don't think there is.
No
I
idea.
don't use Spotify, so I have no idea.
I'll
Alright,
be
let me
back-
get some
I think
water
there's
real quick before
reviews.
we drop
Also,
I'll be bad if
into
that was
our...
our one review, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys messed this
Also,
up.
to be fair, I was listening to it while I was actively getting my nails done, so like I couldn't really use my hands.
Here, just
Just
type
verbal
this for me.
comment.
Apparently, she called to make sure I was awake.
Nice.
Nice. Oh, that's sweet. Wasn't the fire alarm?
No, but that's gone off the last 2 days in a row. So there might be a possibility that if it goes off, we got to completely start that entire section from scratch.
Oh god, that sucks.
He's smoking the ganja.
Or we'll restart from whenever it starts. But it's gone off the last 2 nights in a row, and I've attempted to murder people.
Also, I would like to point out that when I picked chapter 58, I did not realize it was in fact the end of the climax, the very tip of the climax. I picked it because it was shorter than 57.
57
I did
was
because it was
so
the shortest
long.
remaining chapter. That's why I picked my chapter.
I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I sat down at like 8 o'clock tonight, and like by 8:40, I was like, dear God. It's
I picked
finally over.
59 just so I could possibly do my shameless plug-in, and I was like, I should not have picked the shortest one.
Yeah, yours is like on Audible, it's like 4 minutes long.
Yeah, it's
Like
really,
2
really
pages.
short.
It's actually blink and you miss it because I actually didn't realize where 49 started as I was listening. Like 59 started when I was listening to it, and like, because suddenly I was at the epilogue and I was like, wait, where was 59?
Yeah, the same thing happened to me actually, because I remember it says like the end of book 2, and I'm like, wait, this isn't the epilogue. This is the epilogue. Like,
Question
what?
mark?
Yeah. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Who put that question mark in there?
No, read anything on the teleprompter. Yeah, it's like a page. Huh?
Where was I?
Yeah,
1, 2.
it's super short.
I'm glad
It's
I only
too-
got one can of this beer. It is not the best.
Oh, that's where I was. So the people who retweeted us, they're also doing a Cosmere reread thing. They've done the Wheel of Time books,
Oh,
and
right.
their show is one guy has read the Cosmere books, the other two haven't. I don't know. I've only seen their page, or I haven't listened to any of the things. Depending on if I get the time to watch it or if I reach out to the people, I might invite the one who does know onto next week's episode so that we can have like a fifth opinion on what it is. It
Oh,
also
that'd be
allows him to
awesome.
geek out about a book, so because it's going to take him a year to get to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be down.
That's a cool idea, yeah. And it's like we'll be able to talk about everything that happened because it'll be like the epilogue section.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I know John also had the same idea. I just don't know who the guy is, so
He was a guy from the Cosmere tattoo page.
Oh,
Cool.
is it one of the Is it just a random guy from the Cosmere tattoo page, or is it one of the
Yeah.
uh,
Hold on 1 second. My girlfriend is calling me.
can we make fun and point and laugh at him for it?
No, let's give him his space. You know, he needs. He's a respected member of the podcast. It's like the night of phone calls, though.
Okay, you want to call your boyfriend just in case?
he's literally in the room next door. So.
Just verbally call him.
Oh, he's sleeping.
Oh,
He's going to sleep because he has to wake up early for work. Wake up really early to go into work.
oh.
Yeah, that must be nice.
Yes, it must be nice to get a full night's rest.
That's what I'm saying. Thursdays are always rough.
Friday mornings are real rough.
Yeah, you gotta get up early too, right?
Yeah, I have to be at work before 8. So
Yeah, it's pretty early. I'm usually like, getting up around 5, so it's cutting it close. I don't know. It's worth it to see you guys though. It's not
Yeah.
as bad as Reader.
It's not as bad as Juan, too.
yeah,
Oh my god, that would have been horrible.
Juan's technically an hour ahead of me, so this would all be
I don't-
3 for her.
yeah.
Hers was so bad she quit.
I really hope that that wasn't the case.
I don't think we're ever gonna see her again. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
No, I
She'll
don't
appear
think
at the
it was-
end of Rhythm of War like Thydakar.
Yeah,
I would
think
say
it's
let's
just-
wait and see if she
And we're
shows up.
back.
Maybe at the beginning of
I don't
next
think
week?
she's gonna respond.
at the end
I
of
don't.
this
I
year.
don't think she's gonna come back.
What do you know that we don't know?
Nothing, but just if it's been this long, it's just I know how people's minds usually work, and usually if it's been this long, they're not planning to.
But I gotta wonder if, like, are they just not on Discord at all, or are they not coming to this server? Because I've DM'd them a couple of times. I don't think they're on Discord at all. I think
Yeah,
she's, like, just busy with schoolwork, and I think summer vacation might give her some time. I don't know.
maybe it might give her time, but I still don't think that she's gonna like join back.
Yeah,
Or
no, she doesn't
respond.
love us anymore.
I don't think she's gonna join back or respond. Like,
No.
She's become one with Adelnalzium.
like even if she does like have more time, I don't think she's gonna come back and respond because I think she knows that she doesn't have like even like if it's like summer break, like she'll have enough time over summer break, but then she probably won't have time when the school year starts up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
One.
She did have to go. We
Two.
knew it.
It's classic. The rule of threes.
Oh, that was quick. But before we
to grab a
start,
blanket because I'm cold.
how dare you stop to grab a blanket? Who would ever do such a thing?
Yeah.
Don't you have like don't you have one of those Southern Scadrial medallions we just tap into?
This is my medallion.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty.
I
I'm surprised they
Um,
don't give those away at Dragon Con, though.
Well, last year they did have the coins.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, they had coins around, and you could buy that's how you got the newspapers, was you would spend boxings and clips. You'd spend clips on them,
oh, that's cool.
which was fun. So they gave you like a certain number when you like checked in, and then you could do other things to like get more money and stuff. And then
Was there like a kid in short pants that with like a vest, like yelling like on the side of the street?
no,
Extra!
No, so there were four, because there are four. So
Show off.
they're right here. They're right here. But there was one at check-in, so you could buy one at check-in. There was one at the help desk. There was one, I think, there was one at the Dragonsteel booth in the exhibit hall, and then I don't remember where the fourth one was. I think it was probably at the there was like a prize booth where you could also exchange your coins for like prizes and stuff.
Cool.
Almost like a mini scavenger hunt there.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
Yeah, and if you talk to the Dragonsteel people, they could give you like tasks to do to earn coins, to earn money.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Do my laundry. Here,
Assassinate that nobleman.
have some fake currency, kid.
Yeah, well, or like if you had a really good cosplay, they would give you coins as well.
Brandon would do that if you went to his signings in costume. He would give you a pin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they were doing coins at the
What if
Dragonsteel Con.
the Koloss are just a big metaphor for fans? It's like you give them like these fake tokens and then they just follow you around, and like they never outgrow their childish skin. I don't know.
I was waiting for you to explain the blue skin and the 4 spikes.
I really thought I outsmarted Kay.
Better luck next time.
Yeah.
Fool, you cannot outsmart me.
Oh, I was so confident because I've read this part over and over. And it was
You
just
were
like,
you were
oh.
very confident. Sorry to.
It could be read like that. It could be read like that.
Surprise!
It literally says that it shattered when he fell, when he collapsed. So
Yeah,
you're incorrect.
I think Elend would have put it back down. I don't think he would have taken it.
He was holding on to it in his hand.
Yeah.
Because they say, like, he's
Also
like,
salty about that.
maybe there's something over there, like near the well, that can help us figure out what this is. Like, so he was taking it over to the well to see if they read something that could help them figure out what the fuck it was.
Yeah. Whatever. Just rub it in, why don't you?